Welcome back to season 1 of Snubs and Dubs, where we're talking the snubs and dubs of the 69th Academy Award for Best Picture. Oh, wait. Today's a little different, but we'll get to that. I'm your host, Kyle Tobiasson, and today I'm not joined by my co-host, Jason Miller. I'm instead joined by the wonderful girlfriend, Molly Ann. Molly, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Well, we all know Molly from the train spotting episode of this season, and you're probably wondering what is going on here. Well, we're going to throw in a few bonus episodes every now and again that are still from the year that the season is covering, so in this case, 1996, but are outside of our regular schedule and are not going to be seen in our rankings or that sort of thing. We're also not going to be doing a plot breakdown, but we will be doing some interesting facts and talking generally about the movie. With that out of the way, let's talk about the movie. So for this first ever bonus episode in Snubs and Dubs history, Molly, we're going to be talking about The Craft.
Whoop, whoop.
So had you seen it before?
Yes, I had.
Yeah? How long has it been?
A year.
A year?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I watched it last year.
Yeah, we watched it last year.
Basically, I think at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because this was one of those where we were looking for some sort of Halloween-y type movies that weren't like necessarily scary.
Yeah.
Because
I don't like scary
that's not
film.
your vibe.
Well, that's kind of change. I mean, I'm dabbling. Let's say we're dabbling in it slowly.
Dipping your toes in. Yeah. This is a pretty safe sort of horror scary movie.
I mean, yeah, there's like a few bits that are like quotation scary.
Yeah.
But it's like scary in like a different sense. Like for me, yeah, we'll get into a bit later, but yeah, there's like some scary moments that aren't like typical like horror scare.
Yeah, there's not really many like jump scares or like horrific imagery that is going to just shock you to your core. Like there's some snakes and some bugs and some people, you know, lunging at people with knives or scissors or whatever she was doing later on. But yeah, let's get into it. I guess if you were interested in The Craft, I've included the links to the physical media related to this movie. There's a nice Shout Factory Blu-ray that I have that's really nice. You should check that out. If you buy it through that link, it'll help out the show. Or if you have any other Amazon shopping to do, follow the general link and it'll help out our show in the process. A reminder that this is going to be a quick spoiler-filled conversation. So if you haven't seen The Craft yet and you want to, go ahead and do so. But without further ado, let's get into it. The Craft. After transferring to a Los Angeles high school, Sarah, played by Robin Tunney, finds that her telekinetic gift appeals to a group of 3 wannabe witches who happen to be seeking a 4th member for their rituals. Bonnie, played by Neve Campbell, Rochelle, played by Rachel True, and Nancy, Fairuza Balk, like Sarah herself, all have troubled backgrounds, which combined with their nascent powers lead to dangerous consequences. When a minor spell causes a fellow student to lose her hair, the girls grow power mad. The Craft is directed by Andrew Fleming and is written by Andrew Fleming with the story by Peter Filardi. It stars Robin Tunney as Sarah Bailey, Fairuza Balk as Nancy Downs, Neve Campbell as Bonnie, Rachel True as Rochelle, and Skeet Ulrich as Chris Hooker. Fun fact, all of these teen, quote, actresses were in their 20s at the time of filming. Rachel True, who plays Rochelle, was almost 30.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
She doesn't look like,
no, not
really.
really.
They all play they all look young, like pretty young, I find.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes we're a little blind to that now though, because like, especially in the 90s and 80s, like there was always like 20 to 30 year olds playing
even
high
now,
schoolers.
They play 20-year-olds play high schoolers.
Yeah, exactly. So The Craft has a runtime of 101 minutes and it released on May 3rd, 1996. So Molly, what do you think of The Craft?
I think it's a great film.
You like it a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Wish there were more films like it.
What was your kind of reactions the first time you watched it and what drew you to it in the first place?
It's about witches.
Yeah,
It's about teenagers.
It's about teenage witches.
Yeah, it's about witches, teenagers, and yeah, like what else could you want? There could be a bit more sex in there, I think, to make it really like the best teen film.
But you have a interest in witchcraft.
I mean, yeah, I do. So maybe that's why. Like, I like watching films on it.
Yeah.
I would say, like, from my, limited knowledge, I would guess it's kind of, there's a lot of things in there that I think people do. But
yeah,
it is like a fun film. I think, like, watching it for a second time, like, some of the graphics are pretty poor. Like, the CGI it's bad at times, like, pretty bad. But I don't think this like film was like a top. I think it had a lot of money,
a big budget.
Yeah, like money put into it, and I think just over time it's got more and more popular.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it like will ever be as popular as like other like even like well Scream kind of shadows over this movie and being like the 1996 teen horror movie to kind of come out of it. But I do think this movie is finding a new audience. Obviously, we came to it only last year, so I think it is growing. And obviously, there was a sequel to it.
Yeah.
Recently, I was gonna say that the opening sequence gave me 90s teen TV show vibes.
Oh, when
it's just like the opening credits had like just like this like pop song kind of playing over it, and it was like flowing through the sky, and then like it just kind of put you in that vibe of like a 90s teen movie. Like this movie is very in the 90s.
Well, like, especially like they're smoking on. They're in high school and they're like allowed to smoke on
like school grounds,
like on school grounds, and like the TV, like when they're like watching TV, it's one of those like big ass like TVs.
Yeah,
none of them have mobile phones. I don't remember seeing any mobile phones.
No.
What else? All the fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like where I guess like how it was in Los Angeles. Interesting because I didn't actually know it was in Los Angeles. I thought it was in like Florida.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they really explicitly say that it's in Los Angeles. They might say a couple times when they're mentioning about because Sarah's a new kid to this school, right?
Yeah. I think I thought it was like Los Angeles because of like it's rain, not Los Angeles, Florida, because it was raining and there's all this like when she's driving up to her house, there's all these like shrubs and all these like snakes and stuff, and I just thought, oh, this seems like it's in Florida, but I don't know.
It just gave you Florida vibes,
even though I've never been there.
Yeah. Do you like our main character, Sarah?
Well, first and foremost, the whole time through the film, I just want to know: is she wearing a wig?
Yes.
Okay.
She's 100% wearing a wig.
It's
I actually
so
have an interesting
bad.
fact that was literally that. I'll cut to it now. So Robin Tunney, who played Sarah, wore an auburn wig throughout the entire filming because she shaved her head for a role in Empire Records, which was a year before this.
Oh, okay.
That wrapped up a month before they started production on the craft, so she did have to wear a wig.
That's fair, but it just looks really bad.
Yeah. And there's this one scene where she changes her hair color.
Oh my god, so bad.
And yeah, because it's just like it's got this like soft hue over it, so you know that they've just put some sort of effect over it to try and change the color. But if she was wearing a wig, you could have done that a little bit practically.
You could have just put on the blonde wig and just like morphed it. But do I like her? I only like her at the end, like throughout the whole film. Like, see, this film's good, but some of the acting is just so bad. Like the way she runs, like it's like someone just said to her, run in such a stereotypical fashion. And she's literally like got her arms up in the air and her bag's like that. And it's like, no one runs like that.
No.
Like, in my opinion, the other girls were actually better, I think, personally, better actually actresses. Like the actress who plays Nancy was ridiculous, like really, really good.
Yeah.
And even like the other two girls, like they both like were their characters, but like her, she's just kind of like, I don't know, like even now I don't really understand her, whereas I understand the other ones too.
Yeah. And she's got some weird motivation too, because like she likes Chris, who is Skeet Ulrich's character, like right away, basically, even though he kind of comes off as a dick and the quote bitches of Eastwick
I love that.
Tell her that he's basically no good. But yet throughout the movie, like her choices that she makes are motivated by wanting him to be like affectionate to her, like in love with her, basically.
Yeah.
And so like there does get to that point where they start realizing they have some power. And so they go out to the woods or whatever. And prior to this, there was the quote where the bus driver was like, watch out for those weirdos. Oh, yeah,
like, we are the weirdos, mister.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like that's a TikTok sound waiting to happen.
Yeah. I think it already did happen.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But they go out to the woods and then they start talking about, they do this spell basically asking for what they want.
Yeah.
And Sarah wants to be loved by Chris, basically. Yeah. Nancy wants just all the power of
Manon.
Yeah. And Bonnie wants to basically have her scars go away. And then Rochelle wants to, I think she does not be bullied, basically.
Yeah.
And the outcomes of this are pretty horrific because, like, I mean, Nancy goes crazy because of all the power that she gets. So that's like the ultimate kind of downfall but like Rochelle, she wishes that this like her racist bully, like whenever she continues to bully her, she starts losing her hair.
Well, they did a spell for that.
Yeah.
So like when they were doing the ritual, that was just them like basically like finishing the circle, I think.
Okay.
Because of and they were just saying like this is what I want in my life. And then later you see Rochelle, she pulls some hair. Well,
Sarah
pulls
Sarah
hair and then she basically puts it into Rochelle's hair and basically is like, if she does evil things, she's going to lose her hair, like the bully. And then Bonnie, you see her like crying and she's basically like begging, and Nancy's like basically doing a spell to try and like get rid of her scars, which actually works.
Yeah, it does work.
And that's like the nice thing about it, is the fact that like she did manage to get rid of her scars.
Yeah.
But in turn, like they all turn like just not they just turn like into typical people who have power.
They turn into actual bitches.
Yeah.
Eastwick.
And like what I find interesting is Nancy's really the only one we know the background of with her home life.
Kind of.
Sarah, we kind of get a sense of like what's going on, but not really. Bonnie, I know nothing about.
Yeah.
And Rochelle, I know absolutely nothing about.
No, I don't think we ever really see much of Rochelle.
We never see her home life or anything. She just looks like.
Actually, I think there was some one of the facts I read was that they cut out parts of Rochelle's backstory, but essentially she had a really good home life and she was doing witchcraft to kind of act out.
Well, I was going to say, because she seemed like pretty normal. Yeah. And she seemed like a nice person. But the bully, like when that bully says that horrible
like racism
stuff, it's just like, what the fuck? Yeah. Like,
and like it is kind of fucked what happens to her, but at the end of the day, like, I mean, you can't say she didn't deserve it.
She's a racist.
Yeah.
So like, but what was interesting is that I think she realizes, like the bully realizes what she's done, because when they go to the party, she's like, hi Rochelle. Because I think she's like, shit, like maybe this is like karma here.
Yeah, because she would be bullying Rochelle based off her appearance, like off
her hair and stuff like that.
Her hair and her her skin color, and then suddenly like her hair is now falling out and her beauty is basically dwindling, and so now maybe she realizes that she needs to reassess something. I don't know.
Most bullies bully because they're jealous anyway.
Pretty much, yeah.
So. And like Rochelle was actually not like, she seemed like a nice person. And at the end, I don't know, but
yeah. And that's the thing, is I think like even Bonnie seemed like, because Bonnie was shy, but I think the confidence she got from getting her scars away was kind of her downfall too. Because
she wasn't even like, she was very pretty.
Yeah.
And like she like, and like scars or not, like she was pretty regardless. And she like had she seemed like a nice girl. And then as soon as she removes the scars and she just gets that like attention from these people, which is just sad in itself. Yeah. She just turns, I don't know, crazy. Yeah. They're all crazy.
They are crazy. Yeah. And I mean, Nancy literally goes insane. Crazy. Yeah. In the end, when she takes in all the power of Manon and then Manon, whatever. And then at the end, like we see her in the psychiatric.
That's what I found scary. Yeah. That's what I found like. And then also when Chris like goes to rape Sarah, that was scary. Yeah. Because of like the actor also does it so well, like the look in his eyes, it was just like, oh my God.
Well, and there's like, it's such a stark contrast, because I actually really enjoyed the first scene when it starts to work on him and he like notices Sarah
and he's following her.
He's following her. And like credit to the actress who played Sarah here. It did feel like she was genuinely like laughing. I don't know, maybe some of this was improvised and Skeeter Ulrich was just like really going in, but like it felt really funny, genuine. Yeah,
it did. What I also find interesting is like the I guess like this is like the juxtaposition, like the opposites. Like they're at a Catholic school and they're like practicing witchcraft. Like it's just like the two worlds colliding. Like it's just funny too.
Yeah, I don't know if I liked the group as a whole or like individually.
I think that's the whole point.
Yeah.
I think that like the reason why they were friends is because Bonnie saw Sarah. Like obviously Sarah has like natural abilities. And like we later find out that her mum was a witch from the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper's like, your mum was a witch. Don't know how she knows, but maybe she just sensed like, she's very powerful too.
Well, I think in our first interaction with her, she says you're a natural witch. Like your powers come from within.
Yeah.
And so like, like Sarah already has gifts beyond what are like enhanced by the spells that they cast and taking on Manon.
Well, people question if Sarah was just the power. Yeah. And they were all just feeding off her, where I think that to a certain extent, because all of a sudden when she joins, they're able to start doing these powers. Whereas before it just seemed like they weren't really able to do anything.
Yeah. Well, I guess like you can chalk that up to saying that they needed a fourth, like they needed to complete their coven.
But then Sarah doesn't need a fourth.
No, but
she doesn't even need a coven.
No, she doesn't need anything because she is a natural witch, whereas the other 3 are not.
Yeah.
And so they all need Sarah as like to complete their whole, and she probably enhances their abilities.
Yeah.
And it's probably the reason why things started working so well.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think Sarah's also she cast the spell to basically make Skeet Orwick in love with her. And that was, I don't know if she casted a specific spell to make that happen. I think that was at that first meeting. And then
it was. Yeah.
And then she helped both Bonnie and Rochelle with their issues.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't until after Sarah helped each of them that they actually had their things resolved.
Yeah.
And so with Nancy, I don't remember what happens here, but she basically casts a spell that makes her stepdad have a heart attack.
I think that was when she finally lost it and she just like tapped into like maybe something that because like even the shopkeeper like is like she takes it to a dark place.
Yeah.
And so obviously like she sets the cooker on fire from like, anger.
Yeah.
That's kind of like Harry Potter vibes there I got. Like, and then, she sees that he's having a heart attack and she keeps doing it.
Yeah.
Like, so she kills him.
Basically.
And she's just like, whatever.
And then like they get a life insurance of like $100,000.
Which is like at the time, like when they said that now, it's like, yeah, that's a lot of money, but like you wouldn't be able to buy a house with it.
Yeah.
But then they buy like an apartment in Los Angeles, but like the house isn't filled.
No.
So I'm like, did they just like, was that a lot of money back then?
So per inflation calculator, $175,000, which is the amount that they get as per the life insurance policy, would be equivalent to $305,000 today.
Okay, so that's actually that's significant.
It's pretty significant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like they were able to get that apartment and then probably fill it and then live off it a decent amount. But like even still, like it's still only $300,000. Like once you get the property and the stuff, like I don't know how long you can live off of that. And so probably part of the downfall there too was that fallout. There is like a good bit in the middle where they are like having fun with this and it's fun to watch. And like I was reading Letterboxd reviews where people were just like, I just wished their like fun basically never stopped. Obviously you have to have a conflict or else it's not really a movie. But like the last third is where it kind of, I think, goes downhill a little bit.
I never understood it. I never understood because like, I don't know why they all of a sudden turn on Sarah.
Because
she's just questioning like, she didn't even do it in such a way where like I felt like it was like even warranted.
Yeah.
She's literally just going, guys, like we need to be careful here. Like, you're pushing out all this energy and it's going to come back in somewhat, some shape or form.
Yeah.
And, she's obviously scared. They're driving in the car and they're changing the traffic lights, which like, not a bad idea to get you through quicker. But like, it's just kind of like messing with things.
Yeah.
And then
for no like real purpose.
And then she literally like, they kind of like cut her off.
Yeah.
And like, this is the part in the film where I'm just like, I still don't understand this.
Yeah.
Like, why would you like literally like, maybe I forget what it's like to be like a fucking like, how old are they?
I think they're supposed to be like 16, 17.
16-year-old where you just cut off a friend for just literally going against you. But it just still confuses me.
Well, they go from like being like the four, like the coven, together, like doing all these cool spells and whatever, to literally trying to kill her and tricking her into thinking that her parents are dead.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, it was just a joke, careful. Bro.
Yeah. Nice prank.
Just a prank, bro. Fucking hell.
I know. It's like, that's like, I never really believed that turn so much, especially for Bonnie and Rochelle. I think it would have been more interesting if Bonnie and Rochelle were also a little bit worried.
Well, I think at the end of the day, like looking at the way the characters were, is I think Nancy was just like the force. And like when Sarah like called the power of man on to basically like go up against Nancy and stuff, because she was then able to kind of mess with them and like, they look in the mirror and you see like Rochelle's kind of like lost her hair and Bonnie's now got scarring on her face.
Yeah.
And they run out the house and they're like, this was your idea anyway. Like, we're not doing this, and like run out. And then Nancy like goes up and like wants to kill Sarah, like just as you do.
Yeah. It's just, it's a weird turn. I think there's some interesting middle ground there where if like, because clearly the two were with Nancy prior.
Yeah.
And so they probably fall more into her corner because Sarah's like the new kid on the block.
Yeah.
And while all of these gifts only happened once Sarah showed up, like they still probably fall in with Nancy because they've been a friend for longer. And it also calls into question whether or not they were ever really friends with Sarah or if they were just having her along because she was able to complete their covenant and their spells.
I also think Nancy was jealous of Chris with
Sarah.
Because
because there is that scene.
There is that scene and he just disappears. Like, doesn't he?
No, he falls off the roof. Or he falls off the balcony and I think it's implied that he's died.
Yeah, she's like, I just want you to disappear. Like, you're nothing. And then he just goes.
Yeah, falls and dies, yeah.
But like, to me, like, that was kind of the turning point because like Sarah's like, I don't want to be part of this anymore. And like you see Nancy for like a split moment, like in the room with Chris, that she's like really upset.
Yeah.
Like she's like crying on the floor. And, I mean, like Chris was pretty disrespectful, but like, you know, she was coming onto him and he was kindly saying no and she kept doing it. So toss up there. But you could tell that she was really hurt by like what had happened.
Yeah.
And then he wants Sarah for whatever reason.
Because of the spell.
Because of the spell when Nancy could have literally just done a spell herself.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's kind of what it also was. And also maybe that Sarah had like, maybe Nancy knew that Sarah had natural gifts.
Yeah, she was jealous of her gifts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like, I think at the end of the day, Nancy just wanted as much power as she could and she didn't care what the consequences were going to be. And so like when they like, because I think she even rejects Sarah initially as part of the group when Bonnie comes to them and says like, look, like I think this is the girl.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's like, she doesn't believe it. Like she doesn't think that like she could have power or anything. And so I think you're right. I think there's a combination of jealousy for both the love of Chris and also the natural gifts.
Well, even like when they're talking about like the powers and Sarah's like, yeah, like sometimes like I'll wish like for everything to just go quiet and I'm like deaf. And like Nancy's like, no, you don't. And she's like, oh, I wish it rained and like the pipes burst. And like, you know, Nancy doesn't believe it because like Sarah obviously doesn't need anyone to do any of her stuff.
Access to these gifts, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to get into the reviews?
Sure.
So what do you think the general audience and critics thought of this?
Audience maybe 70 or 80. Critics 30, 40.
Oh, wow. Kind of in the middle there, actually. Critics was a 57% and audiences was a 65%.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, critics like literally was shit on anything. Like, so I always take it with a grain of salt. But audience, like, I mean, I can see why.
I can see why too.
Yeah.
Because I don't think this is, like, I like this movie and I think it's fun. And it's also a good kind of time capsule. It's a very 90s movie.
Yeah.
But I don't think it doesn't reach iconic status.
There's a lot of holes. Like, it could have been done a lot better. First and foremost, I think I would have maybe recast Sarah to someone else. Like,
maybe, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, obviously, like, I looked up and the actress has been in lots of TV shows and stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just because she was younger, right? And, you know, but I just felt like and maybe that was the point that she wasn't meant to mesh with the other girls, but it was just the fucking running. And like, just like her facial expressions and like the way she was like, she'd like mumble like, I don't know. Like, I just don't know. It was just like
something was off about
it.
Like,
I can barely hear you.
Yeah. That's fair. IMDb has a 6.4, so that's also from audiences. And the last critics bit, Metacritic has it at a 55. So
yeah, typical, really.
The thing that matters though, box office, on a budget of $15 million, it made $55.6 million, which landed it at 40th in the 1996 box office.
Not bad.
So yeah, it did make actually a decent amount of money and it's had a life since then. So, you know, I think it's doing okay and it did okay. How would you rank this film though?
I'm just going to go out of 10.
Sure, go out of 10.
I actually don't know.
No.
Maybe like, I think I'm like with the audience on this one, like a 6 or a 7 out of 10. Like, it's good. It's watchable. It's enjoyable. It could be better though.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm right there with you. I think I'm at like a 65, 70%.
Yeah.
7 out of 10.
No, if we were talking about Hocus Pocus, 10 out of 10.
Well, that's that was one of those ones that we found that also started to get into the Halloween spirit. This is not a Halloween movie, though, surprisingly.
Yeah, but it's not like Hocus Pocus is a Halloween film.
Yeah.
But then what even counts as Halloween? Like, does the film have to be about Halloween? Or is it just horror stuff?
Yeah, that's the interesting question. Because I think horror movies are synonymous with Halloween because Halloween is synonymous with spookiness. And so those two kind of interlock. But when you come into this area of like family or teen, like comedies, that sort of thing, in order for it to be a Halloween movie or a movie that you would watch around Halloween, I think it kind of has to be set around Halloween.
Yeah. Maybe this film would have been better if they had actually set it around like Halloween.
Maybe. Do you want to hear what some other people thought on Letterboxd about this movie?
Sure.
Okay. So 4.5 stars by Bryn. This is Harry Potter for lesbians.
What?
So this one is a little bit, it's not as much funny, but 1.5 stars by Charlie. God forbid women seize power. Seems like a cautionary tale to keep young white ladies away from violent intersexual feminism.
Okay, that is funny.
Yeah. A lot of these reviews weren't actually that funny. I don't know what it was about this movie, but they were like, here was some of the kind of like variety that I saw. They were either idolizing Nancy or saying they don't get why people idolize Nancy.
Why are people idolizing Nancy?
No idea. Or so there was also confessing their love to Neve Campbell or saying that this is not the best 1996 movie from Neve Campbell.
Okay.
So either loving or saying that Scream is better, which it is. They are either screaming that this movie is a lesbian icon movie or saying that this movie isn't gay enough.
Why is it a lesbian icon movie? Is it just because there's women that are hot in it?
Maybe.
There's not really any lesbian action.
No, not really. Is Nancy a lesbian?
I mean, they kiss during the bloody ritual.
Yeah.
But like, it's like a peck.
I don't know. I didn't get that either. And the last sort of things were they were complaining that this is a good movie in spite of being written and directed by a man. Or the people wanted to dress like the girls. They wanted to copy their style.
Okay, well maybe like it was like lesbian or like feminist just because like it was a film about 4 women coming together and doing shit.
Yeah. For the Academy, they did not receive any Academy Award nominations.
I'm not surprised.
However, they did get some nominations from a different Academy, the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films. So at the Saturn Awards, it was nominated for Best Horror Film and Best Supporting Actress for the actress who played Nancy, Fairuza Balk. I think it lost Best Horror Film this year to Scream.
That's fair.
And it didn't win the Best Supporting Actress. It did, however, win the MTV Movie Award for Best Fight between Nancy and Sarah in the when they were fighting at the end, basically.
That fight wasn't even that good. But maybe for the time it was.
Maybe. Yeah, that doesn't surprise you, though, that it didn't receive that much acclaim.
No, it's not that type of film.
Yeah. Let's move on to interesting facts then. I actually did find quite a few for this movie. It was pretty full. Director and writer Andrew Fleming stated in the DVD commentary that a PG-13 rating was sought after. They followed all the guidelines to earn that rating, but in the final outcome, the film was rated R because it dealt with witchcraft.
See, I thought this because like with why it did so badly, because the film is not scary, but at the time, I'm assuming stuff like that would be like, oh my God.
Yeah. And
the devil.
Well, and that might have been a hindrance to it too, because it's clearly a teen movie.
Yeah.
Like it's a high school teen movie that teenagers couldn't see.
Yeah.
Because it was rated R. And
yeah, that's actually a good point.
All the content of it, by all means, is a PG-13 movie. Today, I don't think that would have been the case. It would not have been rated R.
What was the newest Craft? Was that actually
that was
scary?
a PG-13. I didn't watch it.
I didn't watch it either.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Times have changed.
That makes sense.
An official website of the film said the crew had to return to the location a second time to complete filming, interrupted by several weird occurrences that even caused witch consultant Pat Devon to raise an eyebrow. As the fog rolled in at midnight, the 4 actresses used actual Wiccan rites and language to invoke powerful forces. Then, as Fairuza Balk's character Nancy attempts to invoke the deity Manon, a flock of bats hovered over the set and the tides rose dramatically, extinguishing the circle of candles. Witchcraft consultant Devon recalls that Manon, a fictitious creation for the film, sounds very close to Menonon? The Gaelic god of the sea. Luckily, we weren't all swept to sea. Director Andrew Fleming is quoted, "Every time the girls started the ceremony, and only when they would start the ceremony, the waves would start coming up tremendously fast, pounding heavily. Then, right when Nancy said the line, 'Manon, fill me,' right at that exact moment, we lost power." It was a very strange thing.
That's actually kind of creepy.
Yeah.
But apparently she's an actual witch.
Fairuza Balk?
Yeah, apparently she actually practices, yeah.
Cool. Well, maybe she was the one in the 4 that was actually the natural witch.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. One scene, which we only kind of briefly talked about, involved using over 3,000 snakes, including pythons, boas, water snakes, gator snakes, rat snakes, a 10-foot Amazon constrictor, and even rare albino snakes. Robin Tunney was willing to be on camera with all the snakes, insects, and rats, but she was unable to do the brief bit where a rat falls on her head. A double is used for that shot, which is filmed from behind. So these were actual real animals.
See, I wondered about that because I thought they can't be real because the snakes won't get along. But maybe they do get along.
Maybe they did. Because they were all real. And that's what I thought too. I was like, this is a really cool effect. Mm-hmm. If it's,
I thought they were like
CGI.
fake and then they threw a couple real ones in.
Yeah, but nope, all real.
I'm surprised they all get along.
Yeah. 3,000 snakes. Could you imagine being around 3,000 snakes?
I just think it's kind of cruel that they were all like stuck in there.
Yeah, a little bit.
On top of each other.
In the shooting script, as well as early edits of the film, it is implied that only Sarah has actual magic powers and that the other girls' abilities are merely a result of their leeching off of Sarah's magic. So we actually kind of talked about that. And that was, I guess,
but what does it say? Early on in the film, it is...
In the shooting script, so what they were going to shoot, and in early edits of the film, it is implied that only Sarah has
I wonder why they removed it then.
Maybe to make it more ambiguous?
It's not really ambiguous, but... Yeah. I mean, I think, maybe.
Maybe. And lastly, this is my last one. In the scene where the 4 girls arrive at the beach to invoke the spirit, they each carry an animal that represents themselves or their wants. Rochelle carries a clownfish. Her passion is diving, which she can't enjoy as long as Laura Lizzie is there bullying her. Bonnie carries a butterfly. It represents the beauty and adoration she has longed for and after being ignored or seen as a monster. Sarah carries a lovebird, representative of her desire for Chris. Nancy carries a snake, symbolic of rebirth, transformation, and immortality, as Nancy wants a better life for herself and her mother, as well as power and leadership for herself.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I did pick up that. Do you have any other final thoughts on The Craft, Molly?
No, not really.
Not really?
No.
Do you think people should check this one out?
I think it's a fun film to watch if you're like just wanting a easy film that requires little effort.
Yeah, it is a very easy film to watch. I think you should probably know what it is before going in a little bit.
It's a teenage film about witchcraft.
Yeah.
Take it as you will.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a pretty good, easy film to watch if you wanted to watch something around Halloween that's not that very scary.
Yeah, not really scary.
Yeah. Well, of course, I want to thank you guys all for listening to this bonus Halloween episode of season 1 of Snubs and Dubs. As always, you can find us everywhere on social media at Snubs and Dubs. That's on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Letterboxd, etc. We're also on Good Pods, so make sure to check us out there and join our official Discord. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on this bonus episode or on this film. So please send us a tweet or a message with a question, recommendation, or anything else. I'm also at Kyle Tobiasson on Twitter, and Molly is on YouTube at Lucina Main. Of course, all those links are going to be in the show notes. Make sure to leave a 5-star review and share the episode. Then come back tomorrow as we return to our regularly scheduled programming with our conversation on A Time to Kill with our special guest, Evan McDonald from Kino Lefter. I can't wait for you guys to hear it. Thanks for listening. That's a wrap. Bye-bye.
Bye.